Honkai Star Rail starts with a bang, serenading you with a symphony and blowing up a space station.
Look out!
Seems I came at a bad time.
You quickly ground yourself in a world with code-locked chrome doors, mech-like invaders with bladed arms, and rooms with monitors spread across the halls. Its hook of a prologue gives you enough that you can see why the story and gameplay are worth sticking around for without grinding. Charming characters, engaging combat, and carefully crafted worlds blend together into a game with enough content to keep you entertained for well over 50 hours.
You won't get away! I told ya I could fight.
Using polished versions of the progression systems from Honkai Impact 3rd and Genshin Impact to create HoYo vs. Best RPG Yet. HoYo has a reputation for crafting gacha games with a strong emphasis on story, and Star Rail lives up to it. You play as the Trailblazer, an amnesiac protagonist who travels planet to planet on a spaceship-like train called the Astral Express. Major story arcs dip into the city of Bellowbog's political conflict and its poverty-stricken underworld. It also balances darker themes like loss with lighthearted jokes, some of which reference pop culture or RPG cliches. Weaving these threads together puts the spotlight on other characters and makes the overall story more cohesive as a whole. There are some twists and turns along the way with some questionable pacing, but eventually leads to an entertaining outcome. Of course, the story is far from finished. HoYo still plans to add more in future updates like it has and still does with Genshin Impact, but Honkai Star Rail already succeeds at slowly revealing small details about each character and creating situations that bring out different facets of their personality. There are 3 major worlds so far, each of which has a wealth of details hidden in every nook and cranny. You trigger many interactions and learn new information from just investigating random objects and talking to your travel buddies and NPCs. On top of that, there's a snippet of lore attached to each light cone, which are weapon-like cards that you attach to your characters to raise their stats and grant them special abilities, and even entire in-game books to read if you want. That'd all be for naught without the rewarding progression though. Star Rail leads you step by step through the layers of increasingly complicated systems as you level up, which helps prevent beginners from being overwhelmed with too much information at once. All the leveling items and materials you need come from different places and doing separate types of challenges, so it can be a lot to remember at the beginning when you're just learning how to play. You then need to decide how to spend your Trailblaze power, the main consumable resource you need to claim rewards. Do you want to level up your character's abilities first, or do you want to level up their light cone? At some point, it's impossible to do all of them in one day without replenishing your Trailblaze power with consumable items. Those come at a pace that feel fast enough when playing for free, but this is where HoYo encourages impatient people with cash on hand to pay to speed up their progress. Remember, this is a free-to-play gacha game, which means it will be easier for some people than others based on what characters and gear you luck into. However, it's also set up in a way that's fair even when you're not paying. It gives you plenty of resources to get started, including at least 80 free pulls from the banners, which grant you characters and gear and permanent rewards from side content. You're also guaranteed at least one 5-star character from the standard banner about 50 pulls in. It already offers 7 characters for free, so you have plenty of options to juggle, so you don't need luck or money to enjoy it.
Fighting is meaningless.
Star Rail uses a turn-based combat system that gives you plenty to consider in terms of strategy, making it all the more satisfying when you pull off a victory. Each character is a combination of 2 types, a class, called a path, like damage dealer or support, and an elemental affinity similar to Pokemon. So there's enough variety that experimenting with team composition is hours of fun. Some teams may have an ace defender instead of a healer, or someone that debuffs enemies instead of buffing their own team members. You also have a chance to switch teammates around depending on the weaknesses of the upcoming enemies.
Better late than never.
So, planning ahead can be just as important as what you do when the fight begins. Unfortunately, Star Rail keeps the infuriating artifact system from Genshin Impact in the form of its relics, which are gear that you equip on characters to boost their stats. There are too many layers that rely on chance. Even if you have a relic with at least 3 desirable substats, it's still possible that the randomized system will funnel every boost into the worst one for your character. To its credit, there's a custom relic system that allows you to craft your own relics with enough of the related consumable item. But until you've played for many hours and found enough junk to exchange for an ideal piece of gear, it feels like a lot of wasted time. At least that time can be spent well learning the different systems, building a strategy, and managing your resources as efficiently as you can while enjoying the story and characters. Beginners might get away with throwing on whatever gear they find without leveling up or considering the stats, but it becomes more difficult after a certain point without proper investment. If you're not paying attention, battles can start to drag on for many reasons, including poor team synergy, underleveled characters and equipment, or type disadvantages. But even when you lose, Star Rail feels like it genuinely encourages you to do better without punishing you. It gives you helpful tips that push you to reconsider the abilities you're using, like if you have enough attack on your main character and where you could get more resources to level up your gear. The fact that it suggests courses of actions and how to look at your stats is a smart addition that will help less experienced players learn the ropes. That's just some of the tons of text you'll have to read. Some scenarios are voice acted, which added to their drama. Even long explanations from NPCs can feel entertaining thanks to the lively voice performances, but in many cases, you should prepare for lots of text. The wordy dialogues make sense in the main missions because the little details add up to give you the bigger picture of what's happening in the plot. The best missions involve characters that were given reasons to feel attached to, and that can work even when they don't have flashy cutscenes. Many missions outside of the main story also flesh out the worlds that you visit with entertaining and sometimes heartbreaking scenarios. You do get to make some decisions that have enough weight to potentially ruin some NPCs' lives, but they don't drastically change the outcome of the plot. That's understandable, considering that this is an ongoing story and the developers can only create so many branching paths. It's things like, should you send a known scammer to jail even if he makes people happy with his lies? Should you pull the plug on a well-meaning robot to stop a possible rampage, even if it would essentially remove their emotional intelligence and individuality? However, some side quests dump a lot of information without as much investment. It starts to feel like a chore rather than an accomplishment to wrap up lingering side quests. Perhaps if there were more hidden character lore like in the companion missions, they would be more enticing than just gaining points at the end. Finally, veterans of other HoYo games will appreciate the loads of quality of life improvements in Star Rail, like how its descriptions highlight in-game jargon like break effect that might need explaining and offer a definition when you click on it. It also has a recommended gear button that you can use to automatically choose relics for each character if you don't want to spend time crunching the numbers. And each enemy has icons indicating their weaknesses before you even approach them in case you forget. They even have at least 2 weaknesses so that you don't feel like you're disadvantaged because of just one missing element, which makes it much more forgiving if you haven't covered every single element in your party. Honkai Star Rail is the best free-to-play game of the year so far. Its stellar storytelling and satisfying progression systems offer dozens of hours of content that a HoYo newcomer can enjoy, even without paying for gacha items or having played Honkai Impact 3rd or Genshin Impact. Combat is deep, with layers of strategy for those willing to dig into details, but done in such a way that it doesn't get in the way of more casual players enjoying it. Its world building also expands outside of the main story into the side missions and interactable objects, making an already captivating world even more lively. This is the kind of RPG that you can play for months without getting tired of it.
4, 3, 2, 1.
For more, check out our reviews of Demio and Mighty Doom. And for everything else, stick with IGN.